How's it going, guys? It's Remington. We're going to do another very early beginner guitar. Well, this one kind of relates to guitar and theory both. But it's very, very beginner. This is the rudimentary stuff, the stuff you need to know in order to become amazing at your craft, whether it be piano or playing drums or bass or guitar. This is the stuff. This is the starting point. We're going to talk about counting, meter, and knowing what you're doing. We'll start with the easy one, 4/4. That's when you look at a piece of music and you see a 4 over another 4. What does that mean? That means each measure is made of 4 quarter notes. What would that sound like? That would sound like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the starting point of everything. It doesn't matter whether you're looking at like playing in 6/8 or 5/8 or 7/8 or 13/16 or whatever. This is where you start. You start with essentially most of the time 4 quarter notes. I know you could do, I suppose you could do 2/4, and that sounds like it would be easier, but it's less common. Just about everything that we listen to as far as pop and rock generally is 4/4. Every AC/DC song ever made is in 4/4 time. In most countries in 4/4 time. Once in a while you might get a swing feel or a 6/8 kind of thing going in country. Blues is 6/8 a lot of the time, but it can also be like 2/4 with a triplet feel or 4/4 with a triplet feel. I still haven't unlocked the mystery of why 6/8 exists and then triplet feel 4/4 exists. I'll think about it a little harder. Maybe I'll come up with a more solid explanation at a different time. But right now, I just want to get you started understanding how to count and then subdivide. Now, what does subdivision mean? Okay, so if you're playing in 4/4, but you need to play eighth notes, that means you've got 2 notes per beat. Okay, so let's take out the old handy dandy metronome. And we'll start slow. We'll start around 60. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your quarter note. How would you count eighth notes? We'd go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you get a little bit of, you got to feel it too. Eventually you will. Right away it might be very weird. But now as far as playing goes, let's take that original 4/4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we're going to do that only in eighth notes. So then it would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So in that case, say on the guitar, you're playing the eighth notes just like I was. Well, the drums might only be holding down the quarter notes, like that's eighths. It's what we'd be playing on the guitar. Okay. There's them quarters. So that's possibly what the drummer would be doing, or vice versa. The drummer could be holding down eighth notes and you on guitar could be doing quarters. But these subdivisions help because then you can work on different rhythms, then you get to syncopation. So we will briefly cover a tiny bit of that right now. What does that mean? Well, syncopation is when you kind of dart back and forth between different subdivisions, okay? So we're going to do some quarters and some eighths. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 1, 2, and that kind of thing, okay? So I know I screwed that up a little bit. I'm sure of it. But the idea is Syncopations when you're not picking a direction and staying in it. Now you're doing these different feels between these different subdivisions. Next subdivision we'll talk about real quick here. It's the faster one, 16th notes. And so now you're going to take your 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, okay? So that one's a little tougher for some people because you're packing, 4 notes in between the beats. But that's how you would count it. So 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E. And again, I recommend metronome as often as possible. So if you turn it on, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1E and a 2 and 3 and 4. 1E and a 2 and 4. 1E and a 2 and 4. Okay? So there's some syncopation, eighth notes, quarters, and 16ths. So that's how you count those things in 4/4, what those things mean. I will, in a future video, grab a piece of music so I can kind of show you like what it looks like in written form. Right now, the idea is just get a feel for these things so that you can start to kind of make your own music and understand like what goes where. For example, playing drums. The bass drum's generally on 1, snare generally on 3 in a 4/4 setting. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you get into like real crazy djenty stuff like that, and it just keeps going from there, But the idea is to get a feel for this so that when you're writing music, whether it be on a guitar, a bass, a piano, whatever, if you are going to have a rhythm section or a drummer, you're thinking about where those things are going to happen. Where's the bass drum going to be? Where's the snare going to be? Because if you're playing 5/8, for example, those things are going to land in a different spot than if you're playing 4/4. For now, we're going to stick with 4/4 like we just talked about, and I'm going to explain 6/8 now. The reason for that is blues is kind of a big deal, especially on guitar, so it's good to know it. Now, what is 6/8? Okay, 6/8 means each measure you have 6 eighth notes. There's 2 different ways that you can think of how you're going to set your metronome to practice this. You can set the metronome to accommodate each eighth note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I'm saying 1 and 4 louder. Why? Well, if you had drums, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 6 eighth notes. Now, you could do what's called a triplet feel and say 2/4, and you'd have the same idea. It would be like this: triplet, 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 triplet. But in written music, you'd have to write it in a way that's a little harder to write, sometimes to musicians more confusing to read. So writing in 6/8 is easier because your brain's already in that gear of like, oh, this is what I'm going to be seeing. Whereas if you see triplet feel on 2/4, your brain's thinking quarters and eighths, but the person that wrote this music's thinking this triplet, and I personally just kind of like, that's confusing. Like, why 6/8 meant to give you that feel. 2/4 is meant to feel like, 2/4, 1 and 2 and 1 and that kind of thing. So 6/8's a pretty common meter. And so in blues, you get the old 12 bar thing. I'm not going to play a full 12 bars, but so you'd have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you get a little bit, you can do this kind of wandery thing. I do this quite a bit. And that's 6/8 time. Very hard to get that feel in 4/4, especially on the page. You'd have to write it real weird. It's not worth it. Now, the other thing to mention is if you were reading music that was in 6/8 time, so now you've got this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In your brain, it's like, well, that feels like quarter notes, but this thing's telling me that's my 8th. That's important to know that. Why? Because in written music, when that doubles, what happens? Well, that's going to be written as 16th notes. So you're not going to see the same note values written. However, those 16ths at that speed that I just showed you feel like 8th notes, but your meter is already in 8th notes. It's good to point that out because you may run across that. Maybe you're in band like I was in school and you're starting to see these things. You're like, well, what does that mean? Why does that look so funny? It looks funny, but feel-wise, it's no different, okay? So in 6/8 time, your beat, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that essentially is your quarter note feel, but it's going to be written as 8th notes. So anyhow, that's a quick introduction and a lot of meandering, I suppose, about time signatures, meters, and how to count. It's very important to be able to count and be able to count well. Another reason for that is, say that you're writing music yourself and you don't have a drum kit set up to be able to record with, so now you're in a program drums. You have this beat stuck in your head. Well, instead of like noodling around, like moving stuff, trying to find where it goes, you just know because you can count it, right? You can play like. So now you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, right? Say you hear that and you don't know how to count, you might take you a while to find that. Whereas if you know how to count, you're really good at it, and you do it frequently, you put drum beats and stuff together like ASAP, it's not a problem. But I think for now, those are the only time signatures I want to cover. This is, again, very beginner video. If you're following my beginner for guitar and you've just learned G, C, and D, you can take these time signature things and 8th notes and such and add it in. Maybe you want to go 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4. Okay? So you have that to work on. Keep at it. You're going to do awesome. It'll be fine. If you're brand new to this, which I kind of hope if you're watching this video you are, or maybe you've just been playing music forever and you never thought about like, oh, wonder how you do count that stuff. You've just been playing by feel. That does happen. Some people have an awesome feel and have no idea how to count